Meteorologist Matthew East here. This is the 2010-2011 winter forecast video, and a lot of the overall setups really quite different from what we had last winter. Very different setup, starting with the Pacific. This is a La Nina winter, where last year was an El Nino winter. El Nino last year, La Nina this year, and some of the other factors different as well. Let's get right into it. First of all, this is what occurred last winter, December, January, February. Precipitation-wise, it was a pretty wet winter across the southern tier of the United States and up through the Carolinas into the southern New England states with above-average precip, and a pretty cold winter. These are the temperature anomalies through the plains, the southeast, a below-average temperature winter. No doubt about that. It was a cold and pretty high precip winter across the southeast. Now this, I know the edge of this at current time is right off the edge of the right side of the video, but this is the PDO, the Pacific Decadal Oscillation. Typically, this is a decades-long oscillation, and through the 80s and much of the 90s, we were in the warm phase of the PDO. Now we've gone back to the cold phase, and this is going to be a cold phase PDO winter. The NAO, this is the North Atlantic Oscillation, so we're talking the Atlantic Ocean now. For much of the year, this is since July 1st, much of the year the NAO has been negative. A couple spikes of positive mixed in there, but this has been mainly a negative winter. And there's the phase through time since 1950. And notice most of this year it's been negative. There's the Arctic Oscillation. It, too, has been largely in the negative phase. And I think through the first half of winter, or maybe the first month, but maybe even the first half of winter or so, we're going to see the NAO and the AO try to stay on the negative side of things, at least a large portion of the time. Now, these are the sea surface temperature anomalies out in the Pacific Ocean for the Nino regions 1 and 2, 3, 3, 4, and 4. And notice beginning in November of last year to where we are now, it's been a complete reversal from above average temperatures, which means El Nino, to below average temperatures, which means La Nina. There's the sea surface temperature anomalies across, this is the equator right there. This is the Pacific Ocean. There's South America, there's North America, and all of the equatorial Pacific, at least across the eastern two-thirds of it, with below average temperatures. Very strong La Nina settling in. And this is the change over the last 4 weeks. Some slight warming in a couple spots out there in the central Pacific, but the eastern Pacific has undergone some dramatic cooling over the past 4 weeks. And again, this is the upper oceanic heat anomalies. Again, November last year to now, complete reversal from above average to below average. Now let's take a look at the modeling for the ENSO cycle, or the El Nino La Nina cycle. If I can draw this for you, here's where we are right here. This is all forecast period out here, and notice the La Nina peaking now or soon for weakens a bit as we get into spring. The CFS, the coupled forecast system, much the same. Here we are right now. Some more strengthening as we get into November of the La Nina before it weakens a bit through the winter months. So, and the analogs that I picked, I picked the years, the winters of 55, 56, 73, 74, 75, 76, 88, 89, 98, 99, and also 99, 2000. Those are the winters I picked for analogs, and I weighted the analog years from the 50s and the 70s more than the other years for a couple of reasons. One, the phase of the PDO matched up better with the 50s and 70s. Also, the solar cycles, the sunspot cycles matched up much better with the 50s and the 70s than the ones from the 80s or the 90s. So for those reasons, in these climate graphics I'm about to show you, I gave the years from the 50s and the 70s 2 times of weighting compared to the 1-time weighting for the 80s and 90s. All that to say, I weighted the 50s and 70s more heavily in these graphics. So let's go to December. These are the composite temperatures for those climate years, the analogs I picked. And again, we weighted the 50s and 70s a little more. Notice the southeastern part of the country, near average for December, but then pretty significantly above average for January, and there's February. A lot of above average air in terms of precipitation. There you go, kind of dry across the southern and southeastern tier, although the North Carolina is right at average for most areas. For December, this is the January composites of all those years, and there's the February composites of all those years. And I'm going to show you my forecast here in just a moment. Now, when you put together the December, January, and February composites of all of those years, so all the winter months together, this is the temperature composite for the entire winter. Okay, and there is the precipitation composite for all of the winter. So with all of that said, here are my forecast maps. For the winter as a whole, December, January, February, above average temperatures across the southern plains into the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, and right on up through our area here in the Carolinas and the Mid-Atlantic region. This is the winter as a whole. The Pacific Northwest, even possibly Northern Rockies, below average. Okay, that's temperatures. Precipitation, above average precip in the Northwest, below average along the Gulf Coast, and up into parts of the southern Atlantic coastal areas. I think for much of the interior parts of North Carolina and the upstate of South Carolina through North Georgia and Alabama, probably close to average precip, and then above average as you get into the Ohio Valley back toward the Ozarks and around the Mid-South. Okay, so that's the forecast idea. Now, with all of that said, I think we stand a good chance in December of having some below average temperatures. So for December, I'm going to go average to slightly below here for the Carolinas for the month of December, and then above average temperatures January and February. Precipitation, when you average the winter out as a whole, probably near average, maybe slightly below, but pretty close to average in terms of wintertime precip. In terms of snow, again, it's very tough with snowfall forecasts in the Carolinas. It only takes one good snowstorm and you've got your seasonal averages. I think there'll be fewer chances overall this winter in terms of snow events and winter weather events as a whole than there was last winter. It seems we just had a chance one after another. Last winter, I don't think that's this type of winter, but we will have chances. December looks like a month where we could maybe try to line something up with temperatures at or even a little bit below average and precip near average. But then the temperatures go above average in January and February. Now, that doesn't mean we won't get any snow during January and February. It just means that there'll be fewer chances. All it takes is one good upper level low carving out, and all of a sudden you get a snow dump in a sea of relatively warm temperatures when you look at the month as a whole. So less chances for winter weather this year. But with that said, I think we will still have some chances. And one final thing to show you before I wrap up the video. This is the CFS, the Couple Forecast System monthly forecasts. And here is December. Notice across the east, it actually has December as a colder than average month, close to average in January, and then way above average in February. As far as precipitation is concerned on the CFS, December, January, and February. You notice that dry air, that drier pattern rather, close to the Gulf, and then kind of close to average precip north of that. So that's the general idea right now. You can feel free to post or email any questions you have about the forecast. I'll be happy to answer them. I know this is a lot of data to get thrown out there, but I can just kind of show you the general ideas of where I'm going with this forecast. All right, thank you very much for watching. Have a great winter if you're just checking in for the winter forecast, and God bless.